What's up, guys? Thank you so much for stopping by at the channel. First time stopping in, make sure you subscribe. Guys, this content is like gold right now. I have to push this out as quickly as possible. When I was at Kodiak Truck and Ryan's Diesel Service in Wisconsin, we were doing that truck show, I had a leak with my transmission. You guys remember that. I recently had my transmission rebuilt from a transmission shop that is pretty reputable around here. I heard some pretty good reviews on them, so I went with them. The transmission shop packed my transmission with a fresh rebuild, the PPE Stage 5 transmission kit with the torque converter, the triple disc torque converter and all that. Really impressed with it, I love it. But there's always that question, I hope they did a good job. Went to Mark and Ryan's shop, which by far they have one of the best diesel shops in the nation, especially working on your Duramax trucks. If you guys are interested in getting some, some real good heavy work done, I would make the trip there, Also, like Matt's shop too. I mean, they do some incredible work there in Swartz Creek. I explained to Mark that I was already having transmission issues, it was leaking, and Mark was just like, no problem, man. Once you get here, we're gonna go ahead and get it on the hoist, and we're gonna go ahead and rip that transmission out. We're gonna figure out what's going on with it. So at that point, I decided to pull out the camera and document it. But I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit nervous, not from their work, but the previous builder's work. I spent $5,400, and in the back of my mind, I always wondered if they actually use the kit, because you never know unless you open up the case. But you can rest assured that they did use the PPE Stage 5 kit, but they didn't do a very good job. If you guys have ever had your transmission rebuilt and you're questioning the builder's work, this might be a good thing for you guys to watch. He's gonna go ahead and disassemble this transmission, not completely, but pretty much. He's pulling the clutch packs, bell housing. Might want to stay tuned, watch this video from start to finish. It's very, very informative, very educational, and awesome, awesome content. Stay tuned, guys. What's up, everybody? Again, thanks for stopping by. I got the majestic beard, but right behind me, oh, we got another majestic beard right here. But anyways, we're gonna have a little bit of fun today, guys. We're gonna go ahead and tear down my transmission.
Yeah, we probably can.
Probably somebody who knows what they're doing is that.
When you guys get me a clean cookie sheet from back there too? There should be one back there. Clean these and pull the O-rings. I got new O-rings for them. Ryan. Hey, Jim. Hot tank. Throw it in. Full cycle.
Now that's the orange O-ring that you're talking about right there.
Yeah, it was there. They put silicone on there too.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Which I just replaced that O-ring, then you know what you got. Yeah, we're going to inspect to make sure that the C1, C2 clutch drum is good and there's no problems that way. We're going to take a look at that. Clutch clearance is crucial in these Allison 1000s. Your clearance off by a little bit and you'll get flare shifts and you'll get all kinds of funky stuff, and it's just, as long as we're down this far, it's easier to check it out now than put it back together and a month down the road you have another issue or something, when we can take 5 minutes here and just look at it real close. So, and some of these kits and steels are so hard, they've gone away from these, they've gone to a stock steel in these now. And we've seen this before, and what happens is when that clutch pack applies, it hits so hard, the steel is harder than the drum and it'll tear the drum up, and eventually this is going to get a flare shift out of you. So what we'll end up doing is we're going to replace this entire drum and take this whole assembly apart.
I'm actually counting my lucky stars right now that I have these guys here to tear this thing down. It's just incredible. At a better place, no joke.
Be in a better place.
What happens? Funny thing is, Josh, this is only the second one I've done. Today. Keep that as a pile. Keep that as a pile. I know what I'm doing.
But you know what? I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
But as you guys can see in those grooves right there, it's it's pretty chewed up. It's eating pretty good.
We're okay.
You got a little drum problem, don't we? Have you ever had an issue with these kits being what they say they are? Or how many clutches?
Assume, based on what I've seen so far, that they probably didn't replace any of the bearings in the trans, which we kind of do on our standard build.
What standard anymore?
Well, maybe replace.
Is it broken?
Job security. We're gonna have Beard washing more parts, and he knows what to do. It's just parts.
I spent $5,400 on a transmission that was put together.
Bearings and silicone, and we get, I think, $4,900 for this job with the Garen triple disc billet converter.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. You know, this is probably the quietest that I've ever been on my YouTube channel. Watching the master at work is pretty exciting, but sort of taking it all in at this point. Got the rear end here. It's junk. I got the built transmission over here. Clearly had issues, has issues. It's junk. Was something completely unexpected, but that's where we're at this point. It's pretty grooved up, isn't it?
All right, so we got a new C1, C2 clutch drum we're going to be putting in here. We've got the black steels out of there. We're going to put standard steels back in. Obviously, we'll show you on the old drum where it tore it up really, really bad.
Okay, so now we have the new drum, guys, and obviously, as you can tell, it's brand new. There's no gouges, nothing that's beat against it. So as you guys can tell, it's a good comparison from the old versus the new. So what are we doing right now, Mark?
Sure, so we're going to take the black steels out right now. They're good steels, they work good. If you were in a drag application where you're not putting a lot of miles on, they're perfect. They'll take a lot of heat, they won't distort, they won't warp. But in more of a street application, we're going to go back to the standard steels. We do a lot of Alto kits. We like their clutches. We've not had really a lot of issues with them, other than we've seen some problems with these. We've talked to their engineers, and they see the problem. We've helped them through that, and it works good.
So have you guys actually used these on your sled pulling trucks?
Yeah, Ryan's transmission has been in his truck since 2009, and he starts either in third or fourth gear with that truck, and has put it through torture, and it's still the original trans in that truck. So we're putting our input shaft back in our C1, C2 clutch drum. We're going to stick a new bearing in this also. We got two bearings going in this. OE Allison bearings is what we use. Best stuff out there. And then we're going to drop our clutch packs in and check all our clearances. Clutch pack clearance on this clutch pack should be between 90 and 120 thousandths. I like to run them closer to 90 than the 120. But you don't want to get them any snugger than that, or you may have an issue with the clutch pack when it has to come off and the next one apply, and you might get a erratic shift. Right, we're running right about 100 thousandths clearance on our clutch pack, so that's good. The spec is 90 to 120. That'll run perfectly. Down, C1 drums down. Another new Allison bearing in our C2 clutch drum. Clutches in here and steels alternated. We're going to put the everything in, and then we're going to check our clutch pack clearance. Spec on this is 60 to 70 thousandths of clearance. Now the clutches are used, the steels are new, so we'll see where we're at. Our spec might be a little more. If we seen like 75, I wouldn't be concerned about it. Okay, I'm gonna pull some of these back out, and I think we're gonna do a selective shim and put one steel offset just a little thinner to just loosen up the clutch pack just a hair. Okay, we're at 65 thousandths. It's gonna run. The spec is 60 to 75 thousandths, so we're good to go. Make sure our spiral lock set. Bearing back on. Alright, we're going to pull the pump off the stator plate, the stator assembly here, and we're going to take a look at everything and inspect it all, wash it up, and put it back together and see what we got. We're going to get the Beard to wash some parts for us quick. Beard's going to hit the solvent tank. Get this all washed up for us. Yank this pump down, we'll look at this, we'll look at the gears. Shows minor wear for up to 160, 70,000 miles that are on it. Doesn't look bad. We're going to look closely at that stator bushing. I'll wipe that down so we can get the real feel on that and see. Guys, if you look at the bushing, you can see in there where some materials come off it. If you run your bare hand across there, I got gloves on, you'll feel that it's rough. So we're going to knock that bushing out of there. And a lot of times what will happen is that when you have your stock converter in, you'll get a shudder from your converter. Well, it's trying to run off center and rattle everything, so it'll tear up that bushing a little bit. And it'll be so minor you won't even notice it. We're going to wash this pump all down. We're going to pull the O-rings out. We're going to pull the bushing out of there. We're going to put a new bushing in and the whole deal. In fact, we can tell this one shook because this bushing should be seated all the way in. And if you look, I can put a flat blade screwdriver in here. This bushing should be set all the way to the back of this pump. So that bushing's trying to work its way out a little bit. So we're gonna get that out of there. Right up, our C1, C2 clutch drum is done. We're gonna reinstall it. Normally when we build a trans, we have a bare case at this point. So we put the front half together, rotate it, put the rear half in, and then they pan. So what I'm going to do is, we took measurements ahead of time to make sure that we drop down where we need to be and we're set on our bearing, because there's almost like a little bit backwards, but not really, but we're going to get this. So we're going to double check our measurement from here to the top of the case needs to be 4 1/4. So I'm going to go ahead now and drop this drum down in here, and then we'll check our spec and see where we're at. That felt good, like it sunk right down where it needs to be. So we're gonna double check. We're just gonna pull out a tape measure. As easy as that, take a peek. 4 1/4, right where we need to be. It's perfect. Converter bushing is down and in, seated all the way down where it should be. Put a little trans gel in here just to keep that spring in place, so when we drive this down on, we don't pop the spring off it, because that's highly accountable when the converter's back in here. We're also going to smear a little gel just on that bushing, so when we assemble this, we actually are able to get some lube on that. We don't want none of this stuff going together dry, firing up dry, nothing. We want everything, you know, well oiled. And when we put our pump gears back in, they got timing marks on them. Not that it's got to be timed perfectly, but we like to do that. And if you look at them, they'll have a timing mark here, and they also have a timing mark here. We're going to put them marks together at 6 o'clock, both of them. We've done it that way for years and never had a problem. I also set the inside lugs where the converter rides at 3 and 9 o'clock. That way when we go and reassemble this, put the converter back on into the trans, we know we mark our converter and we'll line up and drop right in. Works perfectly. All right, so we're gonna get our pump and our mid plate back up onto the stator assembly. We're gonna get this all in place. We got 5 bolts that hold everything together. We're gonna get those on, and those get torqued to 20 foot-pounds. We're gonna torque those with a torque wrench. Everything we do on a trans is put together with a torque wrench. We just don't, you'll see us use an electric impact, you know, impact driver, small ones. We set them down on low pressure just to get them to where things are snug, and then we will torque everything properly. Our thrust washer back in here, which looks to be in real good shape. Again, we're going to put some trans steel on some of this stuff, mostly just to hold it in place. We're not going to go crazy with it. Our sealing rings all look good. We're going to put a little bit on them, just so when we drop it back together, everything will be happy. We're going to put our new pump seal on the outer here. All right, we're ready to drop our stator assembly all back in. We got our new gasket in place. We're going to pick that up, set it in, put another gasket on, drop our bell housing on, and we're going to torque everything down. You want to be real careful doing this. You don't want to break any seal rings or anything else. Dropped in beautiful. We're good to go. Gaskets only go one way, so you got to make sure you're lined up properly. Got that one on. Drop our bell housing back on here. We got our new O-ring on the pump. We're going to have everything in the front of this thing sealed, so we shouldn't have any leakage whatsoever. We got our 2 bottom bolts. The LLY and up style trans runs 2 coppers there. Other than that, we got our staggered bolts in the bell housing that go in here. And then through the center of the trans, all the inward bolts are all O-ringed. We got brand new O-rings on all these bolts. They're all our inside bolts, none of the exterior. So we're gonna run these all down in. We're gonna get our other 3 on the outside here. And then all our exterior bolts we're gonna put in, which again are different bolts. They have no O-rings on them. We're gonna get these dropped down in. We're gonna run them down just with the cordless impact driver, the 3/8, a small gun. We're gonna run these down, and then we're gonna torque everything by hand, and we're gonna go 2 times around on it just to make sure that everything's happy. So what I'm doing is I'm offsetting the torque right now. I torque a couple different places around, and now I'm gonna start in order and go all the way around this thing and torque these down, and I'm gonna come back and double check these. Put a new OE Allison filter on right from the Allison dealer, and we're going to put our line pressure fitting back in. We're going to pull the boot out of here too. We're just going to put a new dipstick boot in just because we're there. That one looks like she's got a few miles on it. We're we pulled the PTO covers on it because it showed a little bit of seepage, so we're going to put new gaskets on. We're going to use the OE Allison style ones, which are like a Princess-Seal gasket. And we're just going to make sure that this surface area is cleaned down and oil free real good, and then we're going to go ahead and put that on and torque those down. We're going to do both sides, and then once it's up in the truck quick, we're going to knock that pan off and just clean that pan up, and we're going to put a new pan gasket on there too. On our transmission builds, when we do them, obviously this isn't ours, we're just repairing what's here. We have a jig and a fixture that goes in here that we drill is for the C3 oilers, and then we use the gear and covers that redirect the fluid down to that hole to give that C3 clutch pack more oil, because that's a common area of failure on the early ones. Slide our converter back on. We're going to inspect that carefully. We're going to inspect the hub and everything. We made up our own dowels to grab this thing because this converter is about 72 pounds to lift up and put on there, so it's a chunk of iron. We're gonna get that up in here, and then we're gonna get the trans back up in the truck, and we're gonna get it running yet this afternoon because we got traction bars to put on yet.
All right, guys, so at this point we installed the new dowel pins. Believe it or not, there was one missing, which is kind of a big deal, so I'm glad that we're in it at this point. We're reinstalling the transmission back into the truck after we have done the service on the transmission. Overall, sum up the transmission build after we tore it apart and started noticing more issues. Mark, can you explain to me pretty much what you found with the condition of that built transmission?
Yeah, we've seen issues where that C1, C2 drum can get tore up. So, you know, when we got down to the point we were checking for leaks and everything else, we had that pump apart. We knew the seal was a little soft in it. Looked further at the bushing in the pump, decided we're going to replace that. It was just time to pull the bell housing off, pull the stator support out, everything, knock the drum down because the drum is right there. It would have been totally inappropriate for us not to really think about doing that because it's in front of us, knowing that there are issues with those from some of them older kits. So obviously we took it out. You guys seen on video what we had. That drum was destroyed. Thankfully we had the drum in stock and all the parts we needed to make this happen, because we didn't want Josh stranded in Wisconsin.
So what is your overall thoughts? So what is your overall thoughts on the clutch packs?
Clutches itself were fine. The steels themselves were fine. They weren't burnt. They're just so hard that they tear up the drums. So we end up going back to the more of a stock steel in there. Same thickness. Check the clutch plaque clearance. Make sure everything's right and good to go. And yeah, I mean, it'll run flawless. It'll work perfect.
So realistically, the builder that built my transmission used silicone, from what we noticed. Now, from what I'm noticing from you, Mark, it's a big no-no in this industry to be using silicone on those instead of just easily using those O-rings.
Right, correct, yeah. I mean, when we tear a trans down, your trans, where the O-rings were on it, they were still there, but some of the kits tell you to put silicone on them. We don't. We replace them O-rings. There's no sense in not replacing them. They're literally 10-cent O-rings and there's 10 of them. So to spend $1 on a transmission to do it right is just the perfect scenario. The other O-ring that was on the pump that was not replaced, it still was there, but they just loaded it full of black silicone. Do not like silicone in your transmissions. It's not a good call. On a rare occasion, we'll use it on a pan gasket, but that's about it. And so yeah, it probably wasn't the perfect situation. Again, it was an older build. Those instructions do tell you that. If somebody that doesn't do that many Allisons realize that, they're just following the instructions, but yet, you know, there's right and wrong in this. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the main culprit was the pump seal by the converter, and I'm sure once that thing would have got warmer, obviously when we checked it last night, it didn't seem to be seeping. There were no puddles in the morning, but knowing that it did leak, you know, with the photos that you sent me, the right thing to do was to tear into that further. Obviously, there was an issue, and it just didn't rear its ugly head when we seen it. So put that pump seal in. Obviously looked a little further, seen that bushing in the pump was hurt, probably from when it was a stock trans, had some converter shutter and damaged that bushing. So again, that's something we always look at when we build these transmissions. There's no sense in shortcutting anything on these.
So just as I suspected, there was some corners cut on building that transmission. Really, really huge thanks to Mark and Ryan for letting me use their shop to document videos there. And they do just some A+ superb work when it comes to transmission, driveline, turbos, you name it, for these trucks. So make sure you guys check them out. I shouldn't do this, but I'm gonna give you a little spoiler alert. I'm gonna be posting this video tomorrow. But as you guys can see, I've been pretty busy in my garage. The 2013 LML, and I'm not even done with it. I'm ripping the YBridge out. I've gotten a lot pulled out of it. Just a little teaser alert, guys. I am plugging away at this job right here. This is gonna be a complete how-to video, 100% how-to. For some of you LML guys out there, this might be worth your time watching. Anyways, guys, appreciate your time. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you guys so much for the support on the channel. We'll see you on the next video. Take care.